Hey there, this is Zach Lovett, and I'm going to show you the new version of Explode Shape Layers. Now, even if you're familiar with Explode Shape Layers, there's a lot of new functionality, and I've changed the way a few things work, so you might want to sit down and take a look at this. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that we have a row of buttons instead of just two. Going through these, the first one explodes, the second merges, the third converts a vector layer to a shape layer. The fourth removes artboard artifacts left over from Illustrator. The fifth selects fills, and the sixth selects strokes. The very last button here will open your options, where you can control the same options you're used to, plus a few new things. Let's get right into this. I'm just going to dock this in my interface down here. Nice and out of the way. I've got this scene here of a little lab bench. And inside of my one shape layer, we've got all of these different shapes. This is the microscope. This is the bottle, this is the glass, more bottles, the beaker, you get it. First button, super simple, explode. It's going to run through our layers, and at the end you'll get a report. It exploded one layer with 12 total shapes. And you see here in our interface, it did. Now each of our shapes is a separate layer. Perfect. Next up, merge. So, merge is essentially the reverse. We're going to select our layers. In this case, I'm going to select all the bottles in this glass, and I'm just going to hit merge. Merge complete. We merge 6 layers together, containing a total of 6 shapes. If we twirl this down, we're going to see we've got each of those bottles and that glass beaker. Third button, convert. So let's come over into this new scene, and we just brought this in directly. This is our AI file. And what you can do is you can right click and hit create shapes from vector layer. And that does it. That's fine. It works. It's just, that's 2 steps. Alternatively, we can just click this button. It does the exact same thing, but in a one-click solution. Now, you may have seen this before. In the corners here at the edges, we've got our artboard. This is the same artboard that Illustrator uses. It's brought into After Effects in 2 situations that I've found. The first is if you have any art going outside of the artboard, it'll bring in the artboard as a mask. The second is if you have any layer that has an opacity not 100%, it's going to bring in the artboard. It doesn't really do much, it just kind of gets in the way and clutters it up. So this new button here, one-click solution, and it just removed that artboard from all of our different shapes within it. These last 2 buttons, select fills and select strokes, will select all of the appropriate property in your current comp. So if we hit select fills, it's going to select everything in here. At which point we can change the color or remove it outright, change the mode, anything you'd like. Select strokes, same thing. We're just going to select all of our strokes. I'm going to change the color to a bright garish red and scale it up. Pretty straightforward. Alternatively, we don't like that, let's just remove it. And they're all done in one click. Great. That's the basics of Explode Shape Layers version 3. If you stick around, I'm just going to show a few more advanced things. Okay, so let's go into our options. Here, there are 2 tabs. The first is options, letting you toggle certain functionality and display options on or off. And the second is a help panel, just a bit more information about the different controls we have. Looking at the options, these first 3 are very familiar to anyone who's used the existing version. Delete source chooses whether you want to delete a layer or shape after you've exploded or merged it, or whether you just want to hide it. If delete's turned off, it's going to hide it. If it's turned on, it'll delete. The third one, center anchor points, is whether or not you want to preserve the anchor point of your shape layer when you explode something. So here I'm exploding it, and you can see that this anchor point is centered for them all. Just going to undo. If it's turned off and we explode, the anchor point is preserved to where it was on the shape layer. This is kind of handy for different rigging options or depending on just how you set up your scene. Now, kind of skipped over this one, but use all shapes is probably the most complex option we have here. By default, it's turned on. And what that means is when we explode or merge, it's going to explode out every single shape layer we have. It's going to merge full layers. It's not going to merge specific things within it. It's going to take every layer you select and put it into a new one, or every shape in your layer and explode it to a new one. With this turned off, what you have to do, if you try to explode it, it's going to tell you to select shape groups instead of shape layers. This means you need to go and specify what layers you want to explode, hit explode, And now it's only exploded those ones out to a new one, preserving the rest of it in your main layer. With merge, this works a bit differently. We're going to do it in this comp just because it's a lot cleaner. We're going to take just our bottles, and instead of exploding them, we're going to merge them. And what this does is it makes one new layer with those properties in it. So that way, instead of exploding each to a new layer, it's merged them together to one layer, but it's only merged what you've chosen instead of the full layer. Great. Now, at the bottom at the side here, these are mostly display ones. This here says use graphic buttons. Right now, our interface has these graphic buttons. These work because they're small. If you know what they mean, they're kind of quick. You can work with it easier. It takes up less room in your interface. However, turning this off will give you these text buttons. It's just if you can't remember what the buttons do, if you'd rather the look of the text, this is an easy way to do that. Now, what display does is lets you choose what buttons to show. For me, I don't really use Convert or Clean Artboard much. Maybe I make a lot of my shape layers within After Effects. I don't do a lot of bringing in from Illustrator, but I'd like to be able to select all fill, stroke, and I still want to explode and merge, so I'm just going to hide those two. When you hit OK, it's going to update your interface just to show those buttons that you've specified. In addition, the interface is now completely responsive to fit any layout that you'd like. If you want it vertical, you can do that. If you want a mix of some sort, totally up to you. All of this is completely customizable to what you feel like your needs would be. And so that's Explode Shape Layers version 3. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to get in touch. Thanks.